So welcome everybody to the NeQter Labs webinar. Again, thanks to Paul. If you heard this already, I'm just being redundant, but thank you, Paul, for letting us, giving us the time to showcase what we have. I'm going to start off telling you a little bit about our company, how we began, what we do, a little bit about our tool, and then I have a full-fledged demo to show you that's pre-recorded from Patrick, our solutions engineer, which we'll watch, and you can feel free to ask questions through the platform, and I'll answer them as good as I can, and if not, we will get you the answer after this webinar. So a little bit about our company. NeQter Labs started off in 2016 as an innovation group under actually a defense contractor called McLaughlin Research Corporation. And basically, we did all kinds of things: 3D printing, reverse engineering, drone technologies, and eventually cybersecurity. And in around 2017, when the mandate came out for NIST 800-171, we kind of came to the realization that both McLaughlin Research, but primarily their subcontractors and vendors, these small mom and pop machine shops, PCB manufacturers, coding companies, labeling companies, all of these companies that handled controlled unclassified information, they're really good at what they did, but they just didn't have the bandwidth to implement a full-fledged, compliance solution, and also they couldn't really afford it. So what we did was we put our heads down and thought, what could we do to help them succeed and survive in this compliance area, and how can we offer that at a competitive price that they won't balk at, or they may balk at it, but at least they can actually afford it. It's something that's reasonable, instead of having to go out and buy a bunch of enterprise level tools. So what we did was we built what we call our NeQter Labs Compliance Engine, which consists of quite a few different parts, which I'll get into. We showed it off at a local trade show, and we had our what we call our "oh crap" moment, in nice terms, when everybody wanted to buy it. So we showed it off. We had a bunch of people that were looking to purchase it. We spent the next 6 months doing a pilot program and commercializing the product, and we've been selling ever since. So that's the short story. We've actually spun out as our own company in 2018. We are currently located in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, which is right outside of Providence, and we have over 250 direct clients, many more through partners, and we estimate that probably 10 to 20,000 endpoints that are monitored using NeQter, so quite a few. A little bit about our platform. So we call our platform the NeQter Labs Compliance Engine, and basically what it is a hardware and software platform that combines all of the tools that we thought many of these small to medium-sized businesses would have to purchase separately, including a SIEMs, or security incident and event management tool, active alerting tool, an inventory tool, a vulnerability scanner, and one other piece of software that we built, which is our compliance tool, which actually helps map out their system security plan and plan of action and milestones. So it actually documenting the technical portions of the compliance. So a little bit about how NeQter is delivered. So mainly the majority of clients go the hardware route. So the NeQter Compliance Engine primarily is delivered on a 1U server appliance with enterprise grade solid state storage and built-in redundancy, and also built-in TPM encryption for securing data at rest according to the compliance. But we can also offer it on a virtual machine, and you can see the supported hypervisors that we can integrate with. A little bit about this is little bit about our compliance tool, our system security plan builder. So as many of you may know, both NIST and the new CMMC requirements, they are broken down into multiple sections and then into multiple subsections. So if we take NIST, for example, there's 110 guidelines in 14 different categories and about 300 subcontrols that need to be answered to fully satisfy those requirements. So what we did was we've created a system security plan builder with pretty much a workflow of how to answer each question, what needs to be addressed, how you address it, what are the best practices to address each requirement, and then also evidence and artifact attachments to prove your compliance, all in the single platform. So this is the policy compliance portion that I was mentioning earlier. The main part of our tool, which is kind of our claim to fame, is a SIEM portion of our platform. So we are able to integrate with right out of the box with many of the enterprise firewalls, Office 365, Google G Suite, uh, uh, Active Directory, Windows Event Log, pretty much anything on your network that you have, we can monitor and we can pull in data. We pull it in many forms through API, syslog, and also agent-based logging. So we have a few ways to pull in that data, and then all the data is populated on pre-built dashboards. So there's no need for the end user to go ahead and parse the data and build dashboards. We already do that for you. Another interesting part of our tool is our active alerting platform. So basically, we leverage, or we have built a whole array of alerts for based around the compliance. Everything from failed user login attempts to file access to suspicious traffic or attempts on your network, all kinds of different things, anything you can think of. We have alerts for, and we also allow you to set up your own custom alerts, which you'll see in the demo. So that's a pretty neat area as well. The next area that I'm just going through this really quick because you're going to see all of this fully outlined in the demo. But the network monitor and inventory system, these are kind of add-ons, but as many of you know, auditing and accountability is huge. So that's where the SIEM tool comes in, but also the compliance wants you to know, what's on your network, who's on your network, and what software is installed on those assets on your network, what hardware is on your network, and everything down to the serial numbers and the versions of things. So we can gather all that information using our tool as well. And last but not least, a vulnerability scanner. So we have built-in vulnerability scanner, updated daily with the latest definitions and vulnerabilities. So you could run, anything from a basic scan all the way down to, we've seen people use our tool as a pen tester. So there's quite a range of uses for the tool, but basically what you do is you run vulnerability scans. It'll give you a report on all the vulnerabilities on your network and also how to fix them. So whether it's a link to a patch or a workaround or an update, whatever it may be, those are all defined, and it will tell you how to mitigate those issues. So a little bit about the tool, average hours spent per week. So a lot of times, like I mentioned, with traditional SIM vendors, there's a lot of manual labor, let's say, a lot of creating custom dashboards, custom alerts, really drilling down and getting rid of false positives. With NeQter, we've really tried to hone in on the specifics of what is really important, and then also doing the heavy lifting for you. So we constantly are integrating with new things. We always work with our customers to get logs for different data sets and parse them and create dashboards and alerts for them so that the customers don't have to do it. And then once we do that, we roll it out to everybody. So that's kind of how we've built our platform, so robustly, and we cover a lot of areas. So that's one thing that stands apart from the rest. So as you can see, this is just an estimate. A lot of people say, I'm using Splunk and it takes me 20 hours of 20 hours a week to manage Splunk, or sometimes it's I need a full-time person to manage this, and then they'll use NeQter and say, I only have to spend 5 hours. I get alerted when something's wrong. I didn't have to spend too much time in setup, and this is kind of what we thought the audience and what we find our audience, the small, medium-sized vendors in the defense department, supply chain really like and need for their size business. So a little bit about what separates us in the market. As I mentioned, Splunk, and then SolarWinds, Tenable, and Alien Vault. Those are our real competitors. What really differentiates NeQter from the rest is that, one, we are really focused on the small, medium-sized business, where a lot of these companies are focused on the more enterprise level. And also, we built our tool around NIST, DFARS, and CMMC compliance, where our competitors usually have to apply their tool to it, which is a totally different approach, right? So we've built our tool to adhere to the compliance, to keep logs for the amount of time, to protect them in a certain way, to alert on the things that CMMC is requiring you to alert on, or that NIST is requiring you to alert on. Where these guys are just, for the most part, not in every case, but for the most part, are kind of a blanket. You can apply it, but you could do a lot of configuring specific to the compliance. That's really our claim to fame. A little bit about some of the bigger companies that we work with. We work with Griffin Technologies, Times Microwave, Hydroid, which just got purchased by Huntington Ingalls, Bryant Construction, Hardware Specialty Co., Smiths Interconnect. As you can see, this is just a few of the larger companies. We also work with schools, some municipalities, a lot of MSPs, partners, all kinds of different companies. Everything, our largest company, I believe, has 1,500 to 2,000 monitored devices, and then we work with companies all the way down to 1 or 2 devices. So we kind of run the gamut there. So that's the quick presentation, but I didn't want to bore you too much. I think that the product really sells itself. So I'd like to now I'll turn it over to my colleague Patrick, who pre-recorded a full demo of the NeQter platform. It's about 25 minutes long, roughly. So feel free to ask questions in the chat. I'll monitor the chat, the question, and see if I can answer them. I'll either pause the video and answer them if I have to, or I will answer them and type the answer in the chat as well. So I'm going to start that now. Please let me know if you can hear when it starts, because I think we had that was a technical issue we were working with earlier today. So let's just see.
Hey everybody, we're going to be reviewing the NeQter Labs Compliance Engine today, shooting for a 5-minute video, hoping to get through all of the different areas of the platform. So we're going to be reviewing the software, the features, reviewing a little bit about what you can expect from a support level, and really just understanding how this platform is going to assist you in addressing either the NIST 800-171 or CMMC compliance. So I've already logged into the tool. We're on the home screen right now. And one of the most important things I just want to highlight before we move ahead is the fact that this platform is predominantly provided on a 1U rack mountable hardware appliance that has robust resources, it's a pretty robust unit that's going to allow you to successfully host, run, and manage both the software as well as retain a recommended level of archive storage when it comes to events, vulnerability results, and overall logs that you need for auditing and accountability, whether it be for NIST, CMMC, or of course the DFARS requirements. So now that we've got that out of the way, we're on the home screen here, and the home screen is going to allow us to take a look at whether, of course, we're up to date, see what the current version is. So we're on version 2.6 for this demo right now. We're going to be able to see as well license information, event severities, and different events that occurred, and also some monitored host information. So looking at the net on the navigation to the left over here, we have Discover, Dashboard, and Events. We're going to be tackling those first. Those comprise the SIEM, or Security Incident Event Management aspects of the platform. We're going to move our way to Network Monitor, Inventory, Vulnerability Scanner, And we're going to, of course, review some settings options, and we're going to wrap up with this compliance tab here. So where I like to start off with the demo is on the Discover tab, just to show the fact that we're getting in the different areas of logs, whether it be from a Windows Server, Windows Active Directory. We have a lot of integrations with different networking equipment, different firewall equipment. Predominantly how we pull information into the platform is a number of different ways. First of which is syslog, system log, output, whether it be from networking equipment, firewalls. We also have agent-based collection for Windows-based systems, and we also are able to pull information from a network level with the vulnerability scanner, network monitor, and lastly, we do have some API integrations with Google G Suite and Microsoft 365 to date. So no matter how we pull those logs in, we're able to pull them in here. Every single different ingestion and vendor is going to get a different index. And we're going to take a look at the Windows index, since Windows is a system that a lot of companies have, if not every company. We're able to pull in those different event logs. We are able to store them, manage them, maintain the original raw log file, which is a requirement for the compliance. So we maintain that here. Some companies spend time in this area filtering things out and looking at the original logs and gleaning some information, much as you might with, for example, Windows Event Viewer. So you can absolutely do that. Create a filter like I have done. You can type stuff in, have a text-based query. You can also take a look at the time picker, organize stuff by time. And it's also in this area that you're able to create filters and create customized alerts if that's something that you want to do. One of the things that we focus on with the NeQter Labs platform is simplicity, ease of use, and its level of integration. So we have a lot of pre-built dashboards, pre-built alerts. So we absolutely have the option to create custom stuff, but there is a lot right out of the box that you're able to set up, and that's really comes down to our focus on small business and getting this thing up and running and getting you successful with it. So that being said, you can, of course, again, spend time in this area, filtering things down, but predominantly you're going to be hanging out in the dashboards area. So I already have a dashboard queued up. Again, we have different dashboards, and just to list off a couple that we have, Windows Active Directory, so we can see user activity, authentication activity, administrative activity. We can also see overall profiles of event log severities coming in from Active Directory. We also have dashboards built out for Windows Server, so we can look at file auditing. We can take a look at, of course, what users are doing with files, how they're interacting, if there's any audit failures. We also have a lot of dashboards associated with different firewall vendors and integration. So you're able to, you have a Cisco ASA, no problem. Go on Cisco ASA, turn on syslog output, ingest it into the tool here. We have a dashboard built out focusing on networking traffic, whether it be internal, external, successful VPN connections, web filtering. You're able to do a lot of that. We also have dashboards for server metrics, Synology, if that's something that you have. And of course, we have separate dashboards for our Google G Suite and Microsoft 365 integrations, whether they be commercial, GCC, or GCC high. We're able to support that across the board. So just to give you an idea generally of how the dashboards work, again, we're pulling in those logs from the back end like we already reviewed. And we're able to go in here and much like any of the other dashboards or the other areas of the tool, we're able to easily select something down with either a time frame here. You can do textual based queries, but the nice thing about this platform, and actually now thinking back, something I should have addressed at the top of the call, we're leveraging Elastic Elk Stack and that powerful open source engine to visualize and manage these logs. So with that, we're easily able to allow you to create filters, whether it be dragging a square over something, clicking on a graph, selecting a new frame of time, a frame of reference, And the thing that we focus the most on is the dashboards are showing vendor specific best practice information, or you're also able to see whether it be NIST based or CMMC based objectives with the different logs that we're showcasing. So rather than having to pull up your sleeves, get your hands into a tool, have a really strong learning curve and have to make a bunch of custom stuff, you get this right out of the box, plug it in, set it up, and you have this day one. You have those logs pushing in and visualizing here. And at the bottom of every dashboard, you have full access to the original raw log file as is required and as some users like to do, of course. So that is primarily our dashboard and visualization aspects of the platform. I could go into greater detail on.
Just to interrupt Patrick really quick. So a little bit of how the tool is deployed as he mentioned, and I has also mentioned, it can be deployed locally or in a VM, but we also have many clients deploy it in a cloud form. So if you have like infrastructure as a service in the cloud, and you're fully all of your infrastructure is there, but you still need to monitor that instance or that environment, you can deploy it as a VM. We've had people deploy it in Amazon and Microsoft clouds, both. And also, obviously, as Pat had mentioned, we also integrate with both Office GCC, Office 365, uh, and a Google G Suite as well. So there's a lot of it's very versatile in how you can deploy it regardless of whether you're on-prem or in the cloud.
On that, but I will move forward towards the alert side of things. So on the alert side, we do have the capability, of course, to have automated pre-built alerts in here. So there weren't any events that were tripped in the last day, it seems. If we click on the time picker selector over here, we go to 3 weeks ago till today, we can see, okay, yes, there were in fact some events that tripped, medium and highs, no lows, and we can view those alerts over here. We can see, and these are some pre-canned ones that we have in here that we have turned on. And of course, you can see the original log file. If we click view search, it will kick us back to that logs area, the different indexes that we have. So if you go to the alerts area, click up on the top here, we're able to see some are turned on right now, but we're going to create a new one. We can do it from a template, and we have some templates in here already, ready to go. Turn them on, determine the threshold. Maybe I'm going to put my email in here, and because I want to receive this alert if it trips, I want to get a direct email for that. So that's something that you can do. You can also from a save search from searches that we already have loaded up, or of course if you're in the logs area of the tool, we make a custom filter, save it as a search, load it up, queue it up as a save search here, and make that custom alert. So that's a little bit about the alerts areas. Moving forward, before I wrap up with the network monitor inventory and vulnerability scanner tools, just want to review a couple settings areas related to logs as it's immensely important from a retention standpoint and a tuning standpoint. So you are able to tune out logs as needed. They won't get deleted. As you can see here, they aren't dropped. But if something's cluttering up your dashboard, you can absolutely tune it out, maintain the audit record, but not have it ruin your visualization. You are, of course, able to do front end filtering of all the logs on the dashboard as you see fit. One of the things also to address is the backups. So because we have that hardware appliance that you are getting with the software already installed on it, it has a sizable storage on there. So generally, it's up to you to designate how many days of visualized logs and how many days of archive logs that you are going to retain. Now again, because it's a hardware asset, you are able to maintain the archive locally, which is the default. You can augment that storage through a remote Samba share it to a network access storage, and ultimately the level of storage is purely related to how much storage you have capable on that NAS. So that's something unique as well. One of the things that we do is you designate the visualized logs, how many days of visualizations you want to see. So we have 60 days here. Day 61, that's going to kick right into the archive, and we have 180 days of archive logs over here. Really, what that's doing is we're taking the visualized log, we're stripping away the metadata, maintaining that original raw log file in its text-based form, and compressing it down quite a bit. So we're able to save on storage and allow you to archive. The archive is not permanently cold. You can warm those logs up again and restore them and revisualize them as you need in the front end of the tool. Moving forward to the network monitor, it's exactly what it sounds like there. The network monitor allows you to monitor the availability of different assets or ports that you're looking to track in internally to your environment or externally. You can also add domains in here. So if we just click on this DNS server, for example, we can see, fortunately enough, there were no outages in the last 24 hours. If an outage shows up, it's going to list it here, say it's resolved or not, might be ongoing, and give you the start and end times. We're also able to see return times for this port that we're tracking. So much like the rest of the tool, it's very easy to go in here, add a new interface, edit something that's already in here, change it up, change the interval, change the port, give it a new name, give it a new IP, provide a DNS name. Maybe if you want to look at a website, I could put google.com in here and track to see if Google is available, which is a nice benefit. And of course, as always, you can receive an alert if something has a change in availability. So that's on the network monitor side. Next tool, inventory tool, is going to do just that. It's going to allow you to track the different assets in your environment. It's going to allow you to get a full list of, okay, what computers do I have? What's connected to them? What is installed on them? So on the computer side of the equation, it's going to allow you to see, so this is Windows 10. It's going to allow you to see the build and see the license and see the key. But it's also going to pull all the hardware and software installed for the assets that you have. So it gets very, very granular. It is going to allow you to see the motherboard manufacturer, the version, the firmware on that motherboard, RAM installed, storage devices, their serial numbers, their firmwares, the capacities, their utilizations. Same thing on the software side. We're going to be able to see, okay, what's installed? When was it installed? Where is it installed? How much space is it taking up? What version? What vendor? What architecture? It's going to allow you to see everything that's installed. And the nice thing about this tool is it's not manual. You're not going in here typing in all these entries. It's pulling that automatically and it's going to update that baseline when there is a perceived change on that asset. As soon as a new software is installed, it's going to pull that in here and record it. Allows you, of course, to see network information, whether it be IPs or MAC addresses for the different network interfaces on that asset. And lastly, it's also going to allow you to see devices connected. So monitors, printers, of course, going back to the hardware side, what GPUs does it have installed if it's outside of the regular installed motherboard one. So it does allow you to get a lot of insight into your environment and what assets are installed. And of course, going through the different areas of the compliance, especially on the SIEM side, auditing and accountability, also supporting elements of incident response. The inventory tool is going to allow us to address certain areas of configuration management, again, both for the NIST and the CMMC. And lastly, vulnerability scanner, well, it's right in the name. It's going to allow us to scan for vulnerabilities. So this scanner that we're using in here, it's actually open source. We're leveraging OpenVAS to address this tool, this area of the platform, and really complement our toolkit that we have in here. So with OpenVAS, it is pulling in, if we just look at the sec info, it's pulling in tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of NVTs, CVEs for different families of and different operating systems. So we have 60,000 NVTs in here. It's also pulling US CERT information, and it allows us to also do a network topology. We're able to see, okay, what is present how is it routed logically within the environment. But of course, in the name, it's helping you look for vulnerabilities. So you can go as light or as heavy as you want from a vulnerability scan standpoint. We could just do a host discovery, see what's present, what IPs are live, what operating systems are present, or we can do network-based vulnerability scanning, looking at open ports, looking at erroneous or potentially malicious or really plain text configurations that might be causing a vulnerability. But it also does allow us to do authenticated scans, looking down into operating system and software level uh, different vulnerabilities. So we can obviously schedule a scan, create different targets, whether it be a single IP or range, an entire network. We can also, from a configuration standpoint, this is probably one of the most powerful areas of the tool. From a scan config, getting different alerts, getting reports, getting automated emails when those scans are run. So if we look at one of the scans, one of the reports from one of the scans that were run, we're going to be able to see the CVSS severity score associated with that vulnerability. If we just click on this one here, we're going to be able to see a list of vulnerabilities detected. Fortunately, these are all mediums and lows. And against the compliance, whether it be the NIST or the CMMC, it is going to allow us to determine, okay, from date of detection, what is the length of time I have to address this vulnerability. And you can use these reports to showcase that. So going into one of the vulnerabilities, we're going to be able to see the summary, the detection result, the insight, and all the references. But we're also going to, as we can see over here, we're going to be able to see the solution type. So we are going to be able to go in here and understand, okay, how can I address this vulnerability and fix it? That's the real key here. So mitigation, workaround, remediation, whatever it is, it's gonna say it here. And the nice thing, going back, hitting the back button here. Let's do that one more time. Well, actually, so you can of course download this vulnerability in an external report. Click the back button one more time. One of the nice things is as you run scheduled scans, you're going to be able to show, okay, let me compare these two scans and see the delta of vulnerabilities. You know what? We didn't solve any. There's no minus signs here. We actually added 6. So that's another thing that this tool is going to allow you to do is really build out a robust vulnerability detection, remediation, and management system for your compliance. So if we just click on the settings area, a couple areas to address here before I wrap up on that compliance piece is actually our newest piece. You can set up network time protocol, NTP. You can have different users. You can have different user levels, whether it be admin, auditor, what have you. And of course, you can authenticate up to a different mail that you may have, whether it be Gmail, Office, or a local version of Outlook, and put in a subject prefix so you can keep an eye out in your inbox or make some rule sets or flags for these alerts as they come in, or just different information that you might need to see. And lastly, from an input side, again, going through how easy it is to set this tool up, add an input, give it a label, give it an IP, give it a log source. It's either going to be syslog or agent right now, and select the manufacturer. Once you go through those steps, you're going to be receiving those logs. With G Suite and Microsoft 365, there are actually 2-step and 3-step processes as well. Very quickly, you can get in logs from those cloud-based systems, which is really, really nice to see. So last tool that we have, this is all on the tech side, really plugging in your network, auditing, listening, and making some nice reports for you. This last piece, the compliance side, if we click over here, this is going to allow you to build out a system security plan or for either the CMMC or the NIST 800-171. That's what we have it set up to do now. So we can create a new SSP, whether it be NIST, give it a name, assign an owner, maybe it's myself here. Or if it's CMMC, we can select which level. If we go back, we'll open up one that we already have in here. So we'll click CMMC Level 3 System Security Plan. So we have all of the 18 domains of CMMC Level 3. So we've done a little bit of work, not too much. We have all 130 practices that comprise of Level 3 of CMMC, and we've done some work. So let's just start at the top and review here. So with this tool, actually, let's go back. This is going to give you a progress bar for how far along you are. There's different ways that you can designate the controls, whether, of course, they're non-implemented, they're planned, partial, alternate, or fully implemented. From a view and edit, if we click here, it's going to give us a nice summary of the different domains. We can select all the domains. Right now, we're just looking at access control. We can see the different capabilities, and we can designate the status, see who the owner is, see if it has a response or not. So it allows us to really filter very quickly and understand, okay, I have this answered, or this person owns this. So let's click on AC1001 real quick. Access control capability 001. This is the first practice. So we just didn't put a full description. We just added a full description here, just as a placeholder. We have some nice rich text editing. It's cached. Your browser exits out. No problem. You're going to be able to be just fine, log back in, and that's not going anywhere. You're, of course, going to want to save it. We have the discussion areas and the example areas from pulled directly from the CMMC. We have a little bit of a clarification that we have put in ourselves, and we have some external references that inspired the practice or capability of the CMMC that we have here. So looking at this, the rest of the area here, we have a full change history for the different practices that you're filling out. So we can see, okay, we changed the assignee, went from not implemented to implemented, and we can view the full change value of, we went from blank to add a full description. So you can, as you progress through the entire system security plan, you're going to be able to put all of your comments in here. And again, because everything is being tracked, we actually have a fully tracked and managed revisioning system. So we've had a couple. We've had revision 1, revision 1.1, and 1.2. We can see the changes performed between each revision. We can compare the response values. And then if we made a new revision, just to walk you through that, say it's a minor, it's 1.3, we'll just add a description here for showcasing purposes. And so there was no modifications. So actually, if we go back, view and edit, let's do this one here. This one, let's just say this one's planned. We're going to do this in future. I'm going to be the owner. Because it's a planned future event, let's give it a due date. Let's say by the end of September, I'm going to get this done. And we're just going to type in here, Patrick needs to get this done. So we'll save that. Now, if we go to change history, we're tracking that change. We can see the response was updated. And if we go back to that revision area, it's also going to have that updated response as we create a new revision. Minor 1.3. Here it is, 2007. New revision value, compare response values. We can provide a description or the purpose of the changes that we have listed here, and we can provide a description of the revision as a whole. So let me just put that description of revision. And we create this new revision. Now we're going to have 4 revisions listed here. We can see the progress between them. And that's especially important as this is a maturity model. You want to show maturity that you're working on this over a period of time. So that's what this is going to allow you to do. And now if we go to the report, and we can right now generate a PDF report of everything that we've worked on. It's got a great format, looks clean. You're able to navigate easily around the report. On the top of each area, so access control, the domain, this first capability, we have a summary of the practices underneath. Then we have the practices listed. If we go back up to the top just so we can easily navigate to Appendix A, we have a revision history. So all those revisions that we added, it's going to easily click right into here. No additional work on your part. It's automatically tracking that for you. So some of the additional options that we can put, we can of course add an organization name. So we're going to say NeQter Labs. And we're going to call the system the CMMC Level 3 system. Um, so system details. So actually we'll copy that over to system name. And we can password protect the document, include a watermark if it's going to be a draft. So we're actually, yeah, we're going to mark that as a draft, and we'll give it a nice NeQter purple. Generate this tab, click generate here so we can generate this document again, and now it has our updated fields. Have the header now, CMMC Level 3 system, and everything is timestamped. So this is a great way to show maturity over time. You're adding stuff in here, you are updating it, and then you're able to export, of course, all the separate revisions as needed. You can even download this off as a CSV. So that is a full rundown of the entirety of the NeQter Labs Compliance Engine solution. It, so just to review, we went through the different areas: discover dashboard events comprising the SIEM, network monitor, inventory vulnerability scanner. We looked through some different settings, and then we ended off on this compliance piece. And as a company, and through the license that we provide, support is fully included. It includes all future feature updates and upgrades. There's no modular based billing or chopping stuff up. We have a single license, so everything that we add in future, and we have a lot coming down our pipeline for our development roadmap. It's going to be really exciting where we're going to get to, and we are very receptive to feedback. Anything that you can comment, let us know. Anything that you're using, of course, if it doesn't work right, we need to know if it could work better, or there might be a recommendation, something that we might not have thought of. All feedback is welcome, because we want to make this we want this to be the platform of choice for small business in the defense industrial base and anywhere the NIST 800-171 and the CMMC travels. So this was Patrick Colantonio, Director of Sales from NeQter Labs. Thank you for viewing, and we hope to see you out there. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you everybody for taking the time to listen to the demo. A couple of things that were not shown that we have already updated. Patrick mentioned that there were, we had a few updates coming out. One, we have a new reporting feature that'll send either weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly reports to your email of basically a high level overview of the the alerts, the events that happened, a bunch of different things, even some compliance data, all on that report. So it's just basically we call it um, like a C-level report, right? So if you're reporting up to to management, they might want to see something like that. So we have that. Also, what you didn't see on there was artifact attachment. So along with answering all of the questions on how you're achieving compliance, we also have artifact attachments. So what you can do is, and this is what a lot of the auditors are looking for, they'll ask for evidence on each and every portion of the requirements. So what we do is allow you to attach artifacts in the tool to those requirements, and then export them as and then one zip file if they need to be exported, but they can be viewed in real time in the tool itself as well. So if you have an auditor coming in on site, they can use NeQter to audit all of those artifacts on the tool without you having to go chase them around, or if they want them off the tool, you can zip them up and export them to them as well. And the last thing is a POAM functionality that we added as well. As Pat showed you, you can add things to the POAM. We added a whole new section so you can manage all those in a single area. So it's a couple of updates that weren't in here that I just wanted to give you an update about. So to just so you know, the NeQter platform, there's no silver bullet, right? There's no silver bullet to compliance, but we like to think we're one of the closest things to it. So directly we cover We mainly focus on the auditing and accountability, but as you can see, we cover other areas like inventory, the vulnerability scanning, the system security plan, which is huge. Directly, it's I'd say 30 or so of the requirements directly. But with that being said, you have to understand in its entirety, the compliance really is broken up into three sections. So you have policy and procedure, which accounts for about 40% of the compliance. So we actually have a package that can go along with NeQter that gives you templates for all of your policies and procedures, or you can come up with your own. And then you have NeQter on top of that. And then the last portion of the compliance that we don't cover is physical security, which has to be done locally, obviously to your location, and Active Directory, which is a Windows function, obviously, and that covers another 30 or so percent of the compliance. So when you break it down, we cover a large percentage of the really difficult items to cover. The rest is usually covered by things you're probably already doing, or a set of policies that you can either build out yourself or purchase to address the compliance directly. So we do cover quite a few. We actually have a full compliance mapping we provide as well to our customers.
Perfect, Richard.
Paul, yep,
Yeah,
perfect. I was
I,
gonna say,
I
you have any
appreciate that.
questions?
Yeah, that's perfect. So I know a lot of my smaller companies, they have a big concern about what's it going to take for us to get to that compliant state. It is a
Yep.
we call a marathon and not a sprint.
Mhm.
But I think what you were saying, for covering those controls that are usually the hardest for a small company to actually, get comfortable with and perform,
Yep.
this takes that load off of them. Correct?
Sure. Correct. So yeah, so if we work with like I said, very small companies, 2 or 3 person, machine shops, mom and pop machine shops, all the way up to the larger companies. But our bread and butter is really the small companies. Like I would say our average customer is 30 to 50 endpoints really, but I would maybe even smaller than that, 20 or so. We work with those really small companies, and to get everything we offer in our platform, they'd have to go purchase multiple different tools, integrate them together, and then manage them. Where in our tool, it's all managed in a single location. And then usually the companies do have, not all the time, but a lot of times they do have at least some sort of network infrastructure. So they have a server or they have Windows Active Directory. It may not be fully, rolled out and robust yet, but it's there. And if not, that's not the hardest thing in the world to add. And once you get that and you configure that correctly, which is all outlined in how to do that in the system security plan builder, so it'll walk you through the requirements essentially, right? Once you set that up, you're almost 40% compliant just with that and your firewall. Then you layer in our tool and your policies and procedures and a few other things. There are other things in there that you have to do. Physical security, actually, checking your system security plan and updating it with a defined frequency, actually implementing your policy and procedure and not just having them written down. Those kinds of things show your maturity. But to get to a good baseline, compliance stature or posture, we get you far along the way with what you have and what we offer.
Yeah, that's true, and I agree with everything you've said so far. I think that it does take time to get to that compliant state. I know there's folks on the call that uh, go down that path religiously, and
Hmm.
it's hard to get there. And a lot of companies, it's
Yeah,
hard to get them going in the right direction. And some of
sure.
my compadres and other folks, they said, I just wish these guys would start working on something, right? They've got to be
Right.
compliant in the next couple of years. And this gets them going in that direction real quick and provides them with kind of a stronghold into this world of compliance that from NIST 800-171 that they, check box mentality, they might not
Hmm.
have been doing very well at all. And this gets
Right.
them going down that path to really understanding what it takes to get to a compliant state.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. We work with manufacturers, extension partnerships, MEPs, mainly some local ones and some not so local ones. So we work with Rhode Island, Massachusetts. We work with companies that work with others in Georgia and Florida, and Michigan and California. And the one in Rhode Island particularly, we have a really robust um, Navy supply chain out here. and it's such a small state that the MEP had its hands in a lot of these companies. And when we first met them, you know, they're one, we're skeptical, but also they're like, well, I want something that does everything because these companies can't do anything. And with that approach, they ended up doing nothing for a very long time. And then now they're starting to come around and seeing that, you know, they can take, you know, giant leaps forward using our tool, and then fill in the rest as they mature. And that's usually the process that we recommend. And if anybody tells you there's a silver bullet, there isn't. You know, there's a lot of companies out there that will say we do the world, and we'll do everything for you in, you know, one sweep. And that's typically not true. It usually takes a team. It takes the company to be involved in it. It takes companies like yours, Paul, to be involved with them. It's a whole team effort, and that's what we see, and that's what we like to foster, because it's really hard for a single person to do, and it's really even some of the things that are in there are, you know, even multi-factor authentication. That's a good one to use. It's a culture change for some companies. You know, some companies, you know, they have a single login that everybody shares on their computers, right? Like that in a machine shop, everybody wants access to everything because they need to do their work. Well, it's a culture change to have to, you know, deploy multi-factor or something like that. So education and getting buy-in from your employees and management, for that matter, is huge.
Very true, very true. And I think we used to call that in the accounting world tone at the top. It does take
Yep.
a concerted effort by management, senior management, to say we are going to do this from a compliance perspective, and then this is how we're going to do it. And the assignment of responsibilities to individuals. It really helps to have them tagged to these particular activities. When we
Great.
do this, it's if you don't get buy-in from senior management, that it's just, we'll get to it when we get to it. It won't work. But as long as you
Yeah.
get buy-in from senior management and then have the ability to assign tasks and assign activities to individuals, it really helps. One of the other questions I had on read-only access for those assessors, the
Hmm.
CA, the certified assessors that are going to come in eventually and assess
Yep.
all this activity that we've done within the tool. How do we get
Sure.
them to the tool so they can access everything?
Yeah. So you can create. There's a read-only account in the technical portion of the tool. Right now, the policy tool, because we released it in, it was a beta version. It doesn't. It's only admin can access that right now, but that will have a auditor, essentially, portal for them to access read-only.
Yeah, because that's that.
So right now there is a read-only portion of the logs portion, like the vulnerability scanning section, the section. You can add a read-only user on that, for them to access it.
So
If
they can,
so, a lot
so
of
they
these
can
audits are going to
actually,
happen on site,
yeah, so they
supposedly.
can actually see the artifacts that have been collected. So they can.
Correct. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah,
Yep.
artifact.
Yep. So that's they will have that artifact POAM. So obviously you can export everything for them but if you wanted to do it in the tool itself, so the user preferences will allow you to be able to do that. So they'll just be a read only. They won't be able to change anything, but they'll be able to see everything. What we really want to do is have them be able to add notes in sections. We haven't developed that yet, but that's something that's on the roadmap. We're obviously, the auditors and audits haven't happened yet. We're working with a lot of C3 PAO potentials. There's only 2 that have officially come out for CMMC right now that have been approved, but we're working with quite a few that have gone through the training and are, waiting for the final approval. And we're hoping to get some feedback from them on what functionality they would like to see when they audit companies that are using NeQter, to maybe roll that in as well.
That's very positive. Very positive. I didn't see any questions from anyone. I know that we had just some verbal kind of questions come through between the 2 of us. If there's any other questions that you guys have, feel free to email me or to the email address there on the screen for Pat. Patrick's a really good guy. He'll get back to you pretty quick. Anything else you need us to know, Richard, from a platform perspective? how long does it take to deploy something like this? Is it a
Sure. Sure. Yeah. I'll go a little bit about, a little bit about our structure and how we sell. So we either sell directly or through partners. We have multiple tiers depending on the size of your company. So we have buckets, we call them, right? So if you're a small shop with under 10 people, you'll fall into what we call our Soho, typically depending on the size of your network, or tier one. Up to 75 users typically falls into our tier one as well. And then tier two is up to 500, and tier three we say is up to 1,000. So that's typically how we put in buckets. And the reason we do that is for basically for the hardware reasoning, right? So the larger the network, the more resources that the tool needs to run, the more logs it ingests, the more processing it does, the more vulnerability scanning it does. So that's why we put them in buckets like that based on bandwidth. So that's that. The tool typically deploys. It takes we schedule 4 hours for a deployment, but it typically takes 2.5-ish hours. What that consists of, so we send you, if you're getting the hardware appliance, we ship you out the hardware appliance. We use a company in Libertyville, Illinois. Just so you know, all of our support is stateside. It's all local in Rhode Island. It's all here. Everything's developed in the United States as well here in Rhode Island. So there's nothing outsourced. And like I said, we ship our boxes from Libertyville, Illinois. They're already imaged. They'll direct ship in about 2 or 3 days to your door, although we have been seeing some shortages on hardware, so we've stocked up accordingly. But that could have been an issue had we not done that. So everybody gets the hardware. We give you a pre-installation guide, which will say, how to set up the box initially, give it an IP address, and basically you'll bring it up to the latest update. So sometimes it's if the latest update isn't done at the manufacturer or the distributor, essentially you just update it and plug it in. We'll schedule an install with our support team. They walk you through the entirety of the install, everything from setting up users, setting up alerts, setting up vulnerability scans, deploying your inventory agents, getting your firewall logs pushing, Active Directory, everything, and starting your first system security plan. Everything's done in the install. And like I said, that takes about 2.5 hours to 4 hours, depending on the questions and all that kind of stuff. So we do that for you as part of the install process.
There was a good question. If you could read that question for a vendor.
Yep. So it says, if the client is totally on Azure or AWS cloud and is serverless with 4 to 5 employees, but they need SIM, what is the cost of the appliance?
Virtual.
I'm sorry if I missed it. Oh, virtual. Okay, yeah. A virtual. Oh, yeah. So I think if you don't have any servers and it's just basically user, like I'm assuming that question is meaning you have a few endpoints in the cloud, like you have virtual machines in the cloud that are running, like a few Windows machines in the cloud. Is that what you're saying? If
Right.
So I that would just be our I think that would just be our Soho VM, and we can discuss cost. Paul, do you mind me discussing cost on that one? That's up to you.
Yeah,
um,
I think
or
it's really
you'd
kind of
want
it's the smaller version because you're really working through a VM. There's not a piece of hardware, so the deployment
right.
is it's very quick and easy and painless. I think the whole piece of it is that you know the buckets that you're trying to protect, the data, those are just data elements, and then the servers that you're trying to protect are just VMs. So I think
Mm,
it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy on the deployment, and it's smaller. It's not like you've got a bunch of different pieces of hardware and on a on-prem kind of setup. It's not like that at all.
yep. So HIPAA compliance. That's a good question. So HIPAA, PCI, a lot of the compliances have a lot of the same requirements, but they have different processes and policies around them. So you could say that you're protecting your HIPAA data like you're protecting like your CUI, controlled unclassified information. But when it comes to policy and procedure, those would be different. Um,
Yeah, and we've gone down
but for
this.
example, like, right, go
Let me
ahead.
say this before we've gone down this path, and it's compliance is compliance, right? And security is
Yep,
security. Each of these
yep,
regulations have different requirements and regulation specifics for that regulation, and they word it in such a fact that it's you know, NIST is CUI and HIPAA is
yep,
PHI. So no matter what you're
yep,
trying to protect, as long as your policies and procedures cover that particular area, if the tool that you need is a SIM and it does some of the other logging and things that are required for HIPAA,
yes,
I think it would hit. And it might not,
exactly right. That's a great way
uh,
to put it.
yeah, I think the whole point is
I'll
that
give you.
the compliance
Go
piece
ahead.
that
Sorry.
you were showing us, the really cool compliance piece, it's not going to mention HIPAA because the tool is not
Right.
designed for that, but it would definitely cover it.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. We have a bunch of nail salons that use it for PCI compliance. And the reason we it covers them is they require a firewall. So if you're familiar with credit card processing, right, a lot you go to you go to a restaurant and they're either they'll tell you the people will tell you, oh, my credit card machine went down, I can only pay cash, or some places will take your credit card number and type it right into their computer manually. Well, when they do that, that automatically brings that computer into the scope of the PCI compliance instead of going through a cloud service that kind of handles that for you through their machine. So a lot of these nail salons had an on-prem computer, firewall, and also process things directly on that computer, which means that was all in scope. Therefore, they needed a SIM, a vulnerability scanner, and an inventory tool, which we cover with our small office, home office appliance. So HIPAA, I assume, would be similar. Can I do a POC for a client? What a POC can my
Proof of,
uh,
proof of concept. Yeah,
proof of
no
concept?
problem.
Yes.
Yeah. I think
Yes.
what y'all would do, up to you guys, but yeah, that's something that's really easy and something to set up for a client. So as
Yeah. So
Ravinder says,
yep. Go ahead.
yeah, he'll ping us for that kind of a setup, and it's one of those that POCs are easy to set up, but they do take some time and energy and effort from everybody involved. So we'll definitely want to talk about that for sure.
Yeah. Exactly. And we'll if you're if Paul, we can provide you with I don't know if you've been provided with it yet, but a like an NFR license or something as well.
Yeah, perfect.
We can do that.
Yeah, I think that most of my guys that are compliance guys, they want to get their hands in the mix of it, and feel how it
Sure.
works. Not break it per se, but to see how it would operate day in and day out within their enterprise.
Yep.
Some of them, I hate to say it, but like me, I'm a compliance guy. We've got multiple clients, and we've got to manage and maintain those compliance activities across multiple companies. And so
Right.
they would have their own individual instance per se, depending
Yep.
on what cloud infrastructure or local infrastructure they have. But it's definitely doable.
Yeah, and if you're a partner, like if you're a MSP or like depending on what your role is with the company, right? So we have companies that like yours that would manage many companies potentially, and they're we. So I know Patrick had talked about the alerting functionality and how you can label the events. So we'll actually have some of them roll right into a ticketing system. So those events will feed into the company's ticketing system, like the MSP's ticketing system, and it'll be labeled which customer it came from, and then they can you put it in buckets in their ticketing system. So that's how a lot of companies are managing multiple clients as well. So lots of ways to do it. You can have the report sent to you, all kinds of stuff.
Perfect. Was there any other questions that you saw?
I think that was it.
Well, I really
I'll stay on
appreciate.
if anybody else has any other questions. Yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I really appreciate the demo from Patrick and the conversation after. This group has been really hard to do virtually. We usually get together
Yeah,
and have a pretty good time, in person. And that too is coming soon, I'm sure. So just for everybody on the call, I know Fred, I see you're still on the call. Fred has an event coming up in the I think next week. So all of us kind of move around pretty good in this North Texas, North Dallas area, DFW Metroplex. So I really appreciate Richard, you coming to this crew and giving us your perspective on how to get there. But I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime, and if you want to do this again at any time, we'd be happy to. Sorry for Patrick not being able to make it, but I didn't want to leave you guys hanging by any means. It's important to keep our word. And we're here to help. So thank you everybody for joining. If you have any questions for us, you feel free to reach out or reach out to Paul, and he can get the answers from us. And we look forward to working with as many of you as possible. And hopefully we can really help secure the DoD supply chain and grow our businesses at the same time.
Perfect. And I look forward to seeing the recording and posting it onto our meetup group. I'll put it out there so everybody can get access to it. And I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure thing. Thank you everybody.
All right, y'all have a great evening, and thank you for presenting, and thank Patrick when next time you see him tomorrow morning. But we really appreciate it.
Will do. Thanks, Paul. Anytime.
All right, y'all take care. Have a great evening.
You too. Bye-bye.